One of the worst body parts of my physique is without doubt my arms. As a kid, my arms were small, and up until a couple of years ago, they were just pathetic. They resembled Mr. Tickle's arms, like long and gangly. So I feel as though I'm in a good position to show you how to grow your arms, because I've done exactly that with these tips. And by the end of this video, you can do exactly the same if you apply these tips into your training. Because it's all well and good researching how to grow your arms, but if you don't apply these tips or tips like this, you won't grow your arms. So here's a few tips on how to grow your arms by a guy who used to have crap arms and now has less crap arms. Anyway, enjoy. Tip number 1, actually train them. So this sounds really dumb and kind of condescending, but you can't grow something you don't actually train. So if you're not directly hitting your bicep or tricep, you're not maximizing your arm growth. There's a very common misconception that training compound movements will grow your arms, which is true, but it certainly won't maximize your arm growth. So yeah, actually training them directly is tip number 1. Next tip, execution. Execution. The powerhouse of a tip to grow your arms is to make sure that your form is absolutely spot on. If you're throwing the weight around and using momentum and not actually using your arms, guess what you're not going to grow? Arms. Now this doesn't mean grab some pink weights and squeeze the living hell out of each and every single rep to within an inch of its life. It means train the bicep or tricep with good form and intent. In layman's terms, actually train and think about the muscle that you are working. Next up, never an afterthought. A lot of people tag their arm training onto the end of their workouts, especially with the popularization of the push-pull leg split. So this means that arms are an afterthought. You tend to train like chest, back, then arms. They're not trained with any intent. Exercise selection isn't really thought about that much, and you're often fatigued by the time you hit them. Doing this for years will result in very poor arm growth. Simply bumping them up your exercise order will see them grow very nicely. An example for me is bumping them up to first on the agenda on a leg day. Because I train for men's physique, legs don't have to look massive, but arms do. So we bump them from around 4th on the list to 1st, where fatigue is low and I'm fresher. And lo and behold, they started growing. Continuing on, programming focus. When people hit arms, they often assume biceps, but your triceps are 1/3 bigger than your biceps. So to give the illusion that you have big arms, focus more on triceps than biceps. That's a pretty simple but effective tip. Following on, exercise selection. Mainly exercise angle selection. There's only so many ways we can hit the bicep or tricep. For bicep, that's mainly elbow flexion. For tricep, it's mainly the opposite. Now, if we can select movements that can do these from multiple angles, our arms have no choice but to grow. For triceps, you have overhead, you have like push down, presses. For biceps, you have arms stretched, arms at 45 degrees. Straight arms, you get the gist. Attack them at various different angles. Cover all bases. Next up, rep ranges. Explore a plethora of rep ranges. I really like that word, plethora. It's a cool word. Now typically biceps sit between 8 and around 20 reps. Triceps sit between 6 and 15, but you can go outside of this. This is mainly anecdote from myself and coaching clients. But if you have 3 different variations for each biceps and triceps, just make sure you're exploring the whole rep range. Don't just do 8 to 12, 8 to 12, 8 to 12. Do like 7 to 10, 8 to 12, and maybe like 10 to 15. You cover all bases here again. Another tip, it's like DJ Khaled again. Volume and intensity. Now notice how many tips I've given before I've even mentioned these two. That's because if you want to address a weak area, we have to have everything in place. We can't just start at intensity and volume. You have other things to consider as well. However, training with the appropriate volume and intensity is absolutely key for arm growth. So intensity should sit between 8 and 10 RPE, which works out to be like 2 to 0 RAR. Typically with things like biceps, you can probably go a little bit closer to failure just because it's not generating that much fatigue. And triceps, I would sit around 2 to 0. And that works out to be 9 or 10 RPE. Now volume would sit between 6 and 15 sets typically. This is per week and not per session, by the way, and that's both for triceps and biceps. If and only if you have all of the above tips in place, you could then go on to thinking about having your arms hit on its own day, on its own separate day. So pretty much an arm day. This way you can attack them when fresh, attack them with a bit more volume and intensity, and attack them with more variations. So that means more angles. I would like to note, however, this tip is very advanced, so I would go to the above tips first, and then maybe try this. I really hope this video is going to help your arms grow like little weeds, because again, they did grow mine, and they've helped grow many clients as well. But if you did take something away from this video, make sure you smash the thumbs up button, you share, and you subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.